If you live in Japan, you will be lonely, you will experience racism, you will work 40 hours a week at least, you won't get a promotion in 6 months, and you'll get tired of convenient food, and you'll have to make your own. And I don't know what fairy tale you live in, but that's true, I think, everywhere. I don't mean to disregard anyone's experiences, personal opinions, comfort zones, but I have lived all over the world. I've traveled all over the world. And this is true everywhere. I don't know why some people think that, like, before I came to Japan, I came with, like, this idea that it was something that I wasn't. I'm very educated. You know, I graduated from my university at the top of my class. So I think I, have, head on my shoulders, I feel like. But most importantly, right, I spoke with people who lived in Japan, who do the same job that I do. And I asked them, I said, why'd you leave? Why'd you leave Japan? And almost everyone said the same thing. You'd think that it'd be different reasons, but everyone usually said the same thing. I was lonely. That's the number one reason people leave Japan. They are lonely. See, although many of the things I said in the beginning are true everywhere, Japan has a special brand of all these things. They have a special brand of differentness, of, I guess, really uncomfortable things that is unique. You can't find it in other places, even if it exists in other places, like racism, like working. And the certain zest, the certain special flavor, foreigners are just not used to it. And frankly, we would like to have the devil that we know versus the devil that we don't know. When you go to another country, right, you're away from your community, you're away from so many things that sort of you may have really grasped onto that you don't even realize that were really important to you. And there are thousands of videos talking about how amazing Japan is on the surface that don't really talk about, like, the vast deepness, like the amazing societal, like, depth of what Japan actually is, right? Japan is not just this surface level, what you can do when you tour here. It's so much more. And a lot of these videos are very generalizing of Japan. And when you generalize 124 million people's lives and society and culture that dates back thousands of years, it's boring. It gets boring. And it's usually not even accurate. And personally, I think it cheapens, like, what Japan is. And there is, like, no solid thing, like, what is Japan, right? There are many stereotypes, there are many things that you can describe about Japan, but like any society, all rules have exceptions. All things that are set in stone are contradicted. And I think Japan in particular has been stereotyped so badly that people come here with a lot of exceptions. And I guess I'm no different, to be honest. Like, I've learned a lot just from being here. But Japan, like I said, I've traveled a lot of places, and Japan is very similar. You're going to experience a lot of similar things that any traveler will experience when they leave their home country. So Japan, even though, like, it's so separate from the world, it's an archipelago, it's massive, it's its own separate thing, and they don't have a lot of foreigners that live here. Japanese people are still human. It's still Earth. We are still Homo sapiens. We're all human beings, and that comes with good things, and it comes with bad things. And it's really amazing, right? But people are also kind of shitty. So there's that. So as I mentioned before, I've traveled all over the world. I was actually an English teacher in Italy, and I speak some Italian. And when I was traveling through Europe, I basically, like, walked my way around Europe, like I backpacked. But it was super fun. I was alone. I was a solo traveler. And I experienced some of the best and worst things that humanity has to offer. And that was the same everywhere, every country I went to. See, when I was younger, I wrote a fantasy novel. That's actually what you see me holding up in my profile picture. I have a really big imagination, and I felt like all around me, I was seeing so many stereotypes in my hometown. I just felt like I could predict everything, like I knew everything, typical teen. So when I went and I traveled, it was really special for me because everything was so different. There was nothing that I can expect and predict. If I assumed something about something, I was never right. I was always constantly proven wrong if I assumed anything. And each society has its quirks, it has its own culture, its own little rules, and it was so much fun to learn them. And with every culture that has its rules, right, it also had its contradictions. Like human beings, you can't box them. We're unboxable. We always find a way to contradict ourselves, right? I'll never forget when I was teaching English in Italy. I sort of went there without knowing anything. And I gotta say, I don't recommend it. Like, please, like, learn a little bit about where you want to travel, like, when you want to travel, so you don't, like, totally mess up everything. Like, I was pretty mature back then, but yeah, I just didn't know a lot. But this woman that I was teaching with in Italy for a couple weeks, she had studied Italian. She was very, like, gung-ho about the culture, and I think she resented me a lot because I wasn't as knowledgeable as she was. And I guess my, like, ignorance led me to being myself a lot more, actually. I think, ignorance is bliss, and I was just like, la la la, I'll just do whatever I want. And in a lot of ways, actually, it very much helped me. It very much worked. Like, Italian people didn't resent me because, I didn't know certain things. They were just really happy to teach me, actually. And I certainly could have been, like, a lot more sensitive here and there. Like, looking back, like, I'm very embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an American. But I learned so much. And I noticed that this woman, like, with all of her knowledge, with all of her thinking that, like, she could be ingrained in this culture and, she knew everything about it, she was so detached from it. Like, there's certain things about Italian that about Italy in general, that she just couldn't get behind. Like, there was this barrier that, like, opposed her perspective, her values. And in a lot of ways, she didn't accept the fact that Italians didn't really accept her as Italian, even though she spoke the language. I think she felt a kinship with Italians that they just didn't trust off the bat because, at the same time, she's not Italian, she's American. And she may have studied in Italy, but she hadn't spent enough time in Italy to really be ingrained in the culture and get used to the culture, as it were. The society, right? You learning outside of a society about what a society is not you in that society. And you have to be in that society to really ingrain yourself in that society. Now, Japan is particular for getting into that society, right? Like, even if you're here, you still might not be in that circle, if that makes sense. So I'd just like to add that when you are really passionate about a culture, really like to society, and you are rejected, it can be really damaging and really hurtful to you. And little things start to add up. For example, like, if you're rejected from housing because of just blatant discrimination, which is very common in Japan, you're going to maybe feel like Japan is as a whole, like, pretty bad place. And same with, like, empathy. Like, it's not really shown the same way. It's not really valued the same way. So you may think that Japanese people are very cold. And yeah, you start to generalize, and this is what I call culture shock, and it can happen at any time. It doesn't matter how long you've been in a place. You really start to think that whole place is not for you and has rejected you entirely. And I don't think that this is possible in reality. I do think that, in any society, in any country, there is always something for you. There's always something for you to either learn and move on from or connect with on a human level. But it requires a very open mind. It requires you to maybe, like, reject a lot of things that you grew up with. And not many people want to do that, I know that, and I certainly don't mean to knock anybody's identity here. Like, I also know of a lot of Japanese people or half Japanese people who maybe did not grow up in Japan. They come to Japan to reconnect with their roots, to reconnect with their society, ancestral society, only to realize, like, oh my God, I'm not that. Only to be very disappointed that even when they are rejected by the respective society that they thought that they would be accepted in. So yeah, it's not going to work out for everybody. It's not going to be the same. And yeah, I just wanted to respect that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is this society that I'm talking about, like metaphorical society, it's like that sort of everywhere. It's hard to really ingrain yourself in something that you are not familiar with, that you haven't grown up in. And another thing too is that I think when people travel, right, they maybe have an expectation of certain things, And you should never, ever be expected to be friends with somebody because you're around them. You should never expect somebody to take you into their circle ever. Like, don't ever take that for granted anywhere, because you're not owed these things. You know, maybe some Americans even may think that you're owed this because you exist in a space. That's simply not true. But it is so special. It's so special when that happens. And it usually does happen. When you are lucky enough to get accepted in any kind of circle in Japan, in my opinion, or in Japan and anywhere for that matter, in my opinion, I'm just so grateful, personally. You know, at the end of the day, you just got to be brave and be yourself and be the person, like, as you can be, with respect to the people around you. And you would be amazed how infectious, stupid positivity can be, truly. I didn't actually mean for this video to be a pep talk, but if it helps you, let me know in the comments. I hope that this video can help anyone anywhere, not just if you're thinking about moving to Japan or if you're in Japan already. In conclusion, Japan does not suck. And if Japan does suck, then it sucks everywhere, in my opinion. Maybe you would rather be in a place that sucks in a certain way that's different than another way. You know, maybe you want to choose what sucks. But that's just my opinion. Maybe, you know, in the future, after I've lived here longer than I have, it will change. But stick with me and find out. Because if it does change, I will definitely let you know. And if you would like to follow me on my journey, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to my new channel here on YouTube. I make videos every single week, and I really appreciate all of your support and all the comments that I've received. It's really great. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy listening to people's stories or opinions, just the thoughts in general. And it can be about anything. So please leave a comment below. Please share this video with somebody who either needs a pep talk or, yeah, for any reason. Please share this video with somebody that you know. Or if maybe they need to hear it, maybe, you know, they're feeling down, maybe the honeymoon phase of being in another country is really like getting their butt down. Send this to them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.